Hello guys, back again, and it's kind of ironically funny. Over the last couple of days, I've talked about like indie developers doing things for other indie developers. The World Championship of Coding, and of course the Behemoth doing their Golden Egg project and stuff like that. And here we have Square Enix, and I talk about how most big companies can't do this, and then Square Enix announces basically opening up its curation and basically funding and development to all indie developers. So what Square has done is they've opened the door basically for all developers to basically submit game ideas to its collective platform, which is supposed to curate ideas, push them forward to the crowdfunding space. So in a sense, get them developed to the point where they're out in the crowdfunding phase, Indiegogo, and hopefully get the game funded and made. Now, it has previously tested the waters with this with 3 games before, and those 3 games were World War Machines, Moon Hunters, Crackdown 2 for community voting. Roughened Games, their game only got 60%, received 60% no for its project, Game of Glen, so obviously that was shot down. The new submissions going forward will be published every Monday for the collective to vote on. And basically, it's allowing the community to indie community to submit their projects for voting, so that for like a Steam kind of like greenlight voting process. If you've done Steam's greenlight process, then this process is basically the same. This takes place over 28 days, so the voting for 20 days, yes or no for it, and once this product gets approval, basically Square Enix assists the developers in crowdfunding the game via partnership with Indiegogo. And obviously these days, if you're going to ask money for a game, it's either Indiegogo or Kickstarter, so it just depends on which one you prefer. Of the 3 test phase projects, only Torque's game World War Machines actually received 90% positive votes from the collective, and we'll be the only one that's moving forward to the funding part of the project. So they're the only ones who are moving forward that with this project of possibly getting funding to get made, and it is scheduled to happen near the end of the month, so it's real soon for the funding phase at least. Now, Square announced the collective project way back in October, at which it had revealed plans to open up older IPs from the Eidos, EIDOS, backlog for prospective designers to toy with, because they own it. They own it, and they're not really doing anything with it. The publishers, Square is trying to figure out how to actually do all this and figure this out properly. I mean, they own the IP, and how it would work. So it is only accepting original IPs for right now, of course. And basically you're asking, well, what games are the Eidos games are they going to start out with, letting them play with? And they've already kind of hinted that Gex, Fear Effect, and what is the other one? Anthrox, I'm going to totally pronounce it wrong. Anachronox, ANACHRONOX, properties, when the time comes to do this. Developers interested in checking out to submit to Square should check out their terms and conditions. So again, this is cool that they're kind of helping indie developers along. I know some people would say, well, why would they do this? And I think it's rather simple. If you've seen Valve or other companies in the past do things where they go, a kid makes a mod, right, for their game, and they make a real good mod, and what does Valve do? They hire that person to work for them. My thing about this, I assume, is Square is going to work with these developers, build a relationship with these people, right? And it doesn't hurt to build relationships in the gaming world, right? In all business, you build relationships with people in your business, you get to know each other. That's sometimes how you move up or get a chance at something, because you know some people, and that helps you out down the road. You build connections. By doing this, I'm assuming Square's either trying to build connections with these indie developers to, in a sense, be able to release their games for them, which would make sense. Square is a big publisher. Square is actually a really big company if you get outside of video games. They're not just a video game company. They do manga magazines and stuff. They have Dragon Ball Z and One Piece and stuff like that. Square is not just a video game company. though we tend to think of them that way. But, or it's the publishing their games for them, which would be one thing Square might want to do, take a cut of it or something. Or, like Valve did or other companies have done in the past, maybe they're helping these guys out, see if they make a really good game, and maybe later on down the road they either A, want to buy the game from them directly, or try to get that talent, to get them into their company. And that's the best way to get good talent, right? Why bother? And this is one of the things that amazes me about companies is and I know there's a lot of politics about a lot of companies, and this is one of the major problems with companies in general, right? When you're a big company, you get politics, and a lot of times politics could very well ruin a good company because, instead of getting a cool game made, there's this person knows this person doesn't like that person, and it comes one of those big messes. I worked in a company years ago where this person was actually right with his, on the phone with this other person in the same company. But because that person they were on the phone with got mad about it, even though the other person was right, they end up being friends with the vice president of the company, and they, called their buddy and had that person fired. Happens all the time, whether people want to admit it or not. And in this case, I'm assuming that they would love to build these relationships, maybe even acquire some of the talent. And to me, this is a great thing. This is why I was surprised some other, developers haven't thought about doing this. And also, let's be honest, in the Japanese market, the Japanese game developers just haven't been able, overall in general, been able to develop games that that the world wants to play. Which I've never understood, because the DS showed this. The Japanese style games do work over here. There are a lot of highly successful ones that worked over here. That universally, if a game is good, people will play it. That's why this mentality of regions still amazes me. But in this case, this is a positive for Square. I know sometimes Square gets dumped on for Final Fantasy, but in this case, Square is doing a very good thing for indie developers. And I do think the indie developers are going to be a big thing corralled this generation, because they're coming in their own, and they're going to be able to challenge the big boys, not on price of their game, obviously, because their games will always be cheaper, and a lot of times won't nearly be look as good as the AAA titles, but they challenge them in the fact they can be more creative. They can do more creative things with their games, and sometimes the indie games do more what people want than the big titles. The big titles have their place. I'm totally bashing. There are some big titles that are really cool in that, but the indie scene has been a growing scene. That development community is getting bigger and bigger, and there's a lot of talent and a lot of good games that get made out of that. And if you can be the one who gets inroads into that talent or into those games, it only helps your company. Anyway, I babbled that about enough. So what do you think about the fact that Square Enix is doing this basically the collective? And I do agree with the point of voting. That if it is voted down, so much has to be voted right for it to go on to the funding phase. I mean, you can't. Not every game made is meant to be released. If you've ever been on, obviously, like iOS and that, you've seen a lot of people made their own game. It's cool. They should be proud they made their own game, right? But you've seen some games that are complete, that have maybe a cool ideal, but then when you actually see it, it's not a good game at all. Anyway, guys, what do you think about what Square's doing with the collective? And what do you hope to come out of this? And what do you think their ultimate plan for this is? Anyway, guys, like always, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, liking, favoriting. I really do appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys later.